Alright, so first and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakudash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere Aqua. Shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathens. Now, this lesson is going to be based around the fact that in these last days, one of the dangers that is going to be taking place is the civil unrest. And basically, the division amongst the people finally reaching its boiling point. Because we see that more and more, especially since Donald Trump got into office. There's been a lot of division. People are, the racism, the racial tension has definitely escalated. Trump is out here doing a lot of things that people just don't agree with. This illegal war with Iran is one of them, is one of the main ones. And especially here in the U.S., people are just heavily divided against each other. And that division eventually is going to just turn full-blown physical. Because, people go back and forth online all day. But eventually the Lord is going to put the spirit on people to really take it outside. And that's when there's going to be a problem. So through the spirit, I'm going to get some precepts. And Lord's will, you're edified. 2 Timothy 3:1, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And when you look up the definition of perilous, it means full of danger or risk. And, you already have the fires, the storms, the tempests, the earthquakes. You already have Salakia. You already have shootings and stabbings happening. But in regards to, like I said, this division amongst the people here in the U.S. in particular, in regards to the politics, people are divided so heavily. Some people want segregation again, for just every race of people to just be on their own. And then there are other people who are against that. You have people who are completely okay with the alphabet community. And then you have people that are against that. You have people that are all for Israel, regardless of all the wickedness and the atrocities and the war crimes that they're committing. And then you have the people that are against that. You have the people that love Donald Trump and basically worship him. And then you have the people who hate him and honestly wish that, he would go into the spirit world. There's a lot of things that people, in particular here in America, are divided against. You have the economy collapsing. More jobs being lost. People losing their jobs more and more. And then you have the other people who are just mindless slaves who are just like, well, just go get another one. You have people who want to be able to just have one job and be able to pay their bills and have two cars and take care of their family just off of that one job income, like how people used to be able to do back in the day. And then you have other people who say, oh, if you only want to have to work one job, then you're being lazy. Like people are divided all across the board here. And eventually, it's not just going to be back and forth online, like I said. Eventually people are going to start taking it outside, taking it to the streets. And it ain't going to be to protest. It's going to be to hurt each other, to put hands on each other, or worse. Matthew 24:12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. And I have the definition of iniquity here. It says iniquity means gross injustice, wicked behavior, or a serious sin. It describes a major break from moral rules, fairness, or right behavior. And now we know that here in the U.S., there has never been fairness, even amongst Edomites. Like there are the rich Edomites and then there are the poor Edomites. There's never been real equality in this country. But the thing is, with Trump being in office and all the chaos he's been causing, it's becoming a lot more clear just how unfair and unjust this country is. And then, like I said, you have some people that don't care. Some people are just like, hey, whatever happens, happens. Whatever wickedness the government wants to do, let them do it. Because there's a lot of people out here who are just blind followers. They, especially the older generation, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them, they were raised, to just go along with whatever. Don't question authority. Anybody you see as an authority figure, you just follow whatever they say. So there are a lot of people that are getting royally screwed over by the government, but because they're so, brainwashed, they don't realize it. They're just like, oh, this is ultimately for our benefit. And it's like everything is being stripped away from you. How is that for your benefit? But they don't understand because they've been brainwashed so heavily. And then anybody that's not like that, anyone that's not really brainwashed, they get called woke. Oh, you're too woke. Oh, you're, you don't care about rules. You just want everybody to have everything and nobody has to work for nothing. And it's like, no, it's not that. Nobody, like, there's plenty of people that don't mind working, but it's like nobody wants to work until they die. That's not how it's supposed to be. People are supposed to get paid a livable wage. You're not supposed to have to work 3, 4 jobs just to barely keep a roof over your head and food on your and clothes on your back. That's wicked. That's unfair. That's evil and it's wrong and it's gross injustice. You have the whole Epstein situation, those files that are never going to be released. There's a lot of very evil, wicked, disgusting people running the government. And you have some people who want those people arrested, locked away, prosecuted. And then you have other people that are like, oh, that list doesn't even matter. There are people who are like, oh, you only care because you believe there's a lot of so-called white people on that list. So people are just divided. Like, there are people who genuinely think that things like pedophilia and, you know, racism and, you know, being a rapist and all of that is okay. Granted, it's mostly so-called white people who think that that stuff is okay because that's, just part of who they are. That's part of their white culture. Just a whole bunch of wickedness. But if you've been paying attention, you see that this division and this unfairness and this gross injustice and the wicked behavior, it's it's getting out of control, and people are clashing more and more as a result. Luke 12:51, suppose ye that I am come to give peace on earth? I tell you nay, but rather division. And I see that a lot when I'm on TikTok. A lot of people will be doing videos and talking about how, when TikTok first started, it was just people, doing TikTok dances and things like that. It wasn't all division. It wasn't all, women versus men and men against women and, the left versus the right and all of this. And it's like, what people don't understand is that it's always been that way in this country. It's always been men versus women, women versus men, the rich versus the poor, so-called black people against so-called white people, just brown skinned people in general against so-called white people. There's always been division. But before, there was just more, I guess, or maybe less, I don't know. But there was just, people weren't as focused on it because it wasn't as in your face. You see, when social media came out, now everything is a lot more in your face. You can't escape it. You go on YouTube, you see it. You go on Twitter, you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok. There is no getting away from it. You're not going to get away from that division. The Lord is not allowing people to just fall back into that state of comfort, that state of ignorance. The Lord is putting it in your face. And people don't like that. And a lot of people are just getting more and more frustrated because they know that it's not going away, but there is no stopping it either. Like, it's just going to get worse. And the end result is going to ultimately be, race wars and civil war. Because there are people who are very pissed off at what the government is doing, all the wickedness of the government. There's a lot of people who have this, seditious spirit on them. This, arm up and go against the government type spirit on them. Because there are some people who can see what's happening. They can see the writing on the wall. They can see that the government is trying to strip everything away from them and just make them perpetual slaves. And they're not in the mood to go for that. But then, like I said, you also have the mindless followers of the government who just are just going along to get along. And those people who are just on that go along to get along side of things, they're going to clash with the people who are against that. They're already clashing all over social media. The Lord is just going to allow it to physically manifest. And the whole world can see it. Like, don't get it misconstrued, The whole world is divided. But the one thing that everybody in the world can agree on, every country in the world can agree on, is that America, the United States of America, is a powder keg. And the Lord is about to set this place off. 2 Ezra 15:14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hand. And the modern day sword, for the most part, is the gun. And America, the United States of America, has the most armed civilian population in the world. Everybody and their grandmother got guns out here. So when this thing really does boil over, and when, for lack of a better term, shit does hit the fan, it's gonna be a slaughter out here. It's gonna be a bloodbath out here. Because people will actually be using swords, knives, baseball bats, machetes, flamethrowers, anything and everything that they can get their hands on. But people are also going to be using pistols, shotguns, ARs, whatever guns they have at their disposal, AK-47s, like people are strapped out here. And the Lord is going to allow these people to really, take it there and use these weapons, use their swords against each other. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And that's what's about to happen. People are going to arm up, and they're going to be like, okay, we're going to have to take matters into our own hands, and they're going to hit the streets. And when the cops show up to try to stop them, there's going to be a shootout between the people and the police. There's going to be shootouts between, these people who are politically divided and racially divided against each other. The rule of law is basically going to be suspended, and everyone's just going to be out here going crazy. That's why the brothers are constantly saying, watch those Purge movies, because those are a good description of what these times are going to look like. There's going to be a whole lot of raping going on, a whole lot of home invasions going on, a whole lot of kidnapping going on. It's going to be pure chaos. And the Lord is the one who's going to let this happen. The Lord is really about to open the floodgates on these people. And there's a lot of people out here who they can see it coming. And they're carnally preparing for it. They're getting all the guns that they can, all the bullets that they can, all the weapons. People are working out more, not with the necessary intention of just trying to stay healthy, but because they know that they got to be in shape for what's about to happen. The Lord is putting a war spirit on these people. And nobody is going to be spared in the sense of these wicked people. There's not going to be any wicked man, woman, or child that gets spared when all hell breaks loose out here. It's going to be a free-for-all. It's going to be everybody for themselves. Men, women, children, elderly people, pregnant women. Everybody's going to be getting mowed down out here. It's going to be worse than anything this country has ever experienced. And for all the simple-minded people that are sitting here talking about, oh, that's never going to happen. There's never going to be a civil war. Yes, there will be. Because that's what the Lord wants. That's going to be one of the... Salakia. It's going to be one of the many ways in which the Lord brings judgment upon the wicked people here in this country. By having them out here in the streets slaughtering each other in race wars and in a civil war. Not to mention all the diseases and the famine and all the other judgments and things that are going to be taking place here. We really are living in the last days. America really is, and when I say America, I mean the U.S. because I know America is, it's a continent. It's not just the United States. So when I say America, I mean the U.S. because Canada is part of North America. Then you have like South America and all of that. So when we say America, we're talking about the United States of America. Yeah, but this place is on its last leg. And that last leg is very weak, and it's about to collapse. And when it does, society is going to collapse, and all hell is going to break loose, and millions of people are going to die. But you have to understand that these millions of people that are going to die, they're wicked in the eyes of the Lord, and they deserve the judgment that the Lord is about to bring upon them. And those of us of the hopeful elect, we're not getting involved in the race wars and the civil war because the weapons of our warfare are spiritual, not carnal. We're going to trust in the Lord to protect us and to guide us and deliver us. We're not going to trust in carnal weaponry and stored up food and water and things like that. There's nothing wrong with, having extra food and water, but don't put your faith in that. Put your faith in the Lord to provide for you and protect you and guide you. Because He's the only one who can deliver us out of what's about to happen. Those people who trust in carnality, they're gonna get taken out. They're gonna get struck down. Because the Lord is not dealing with that. You're trying to deliver yourself and not trust in the Lord to do it. And the Lord, He's not with that. The Lord is only going to protect those who trust in Him and believe that He can protect them and that He will protect them, so long as they are doing righteousness. Because these wicked people, there's not a chance for them. They're already gone. They've already been written off, so to speak. It just has to physically manifest, and very soon it will. So for all you sincere brothers and sisters, I know that sometimes it can get a bit depressing, just seeing the increase in wickedness here, and you're just vexed in the spirit. But when you really pay attention to what's going on, you can see that the end is so close. So just keep your head up, Keep your head up. Continue to stay prayed up. Continue to read. Watch brothers' videos. Stay edified, and just stay circumspect. Because things are going to be popping off real soon. The kingdom of heaven is close. We just got to keep pushing towards it. Keep moving with the mindset of enduring unto the end and being saved. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakakudash, the Wadi Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, for putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere Akwath, which are the sincere sisters. And shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathens. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up at Adawan Ratazah, which means Lord's will. Until next time, Shalom.